Let's get started. So we are on lesson number 8. I'm so glad you guys made it through every single lesson. This is amazing. So lesson number 8, let's do a little recap. We did it last week, but just to test you out. So the first week I had a lesson called Life Mastery or Life Management. And what you remember from that is one single thing, which is this: your life is a decision away. It's either a life from life management, allowing things to happen to you and you responding, or you actually investing in yourself so that you're the response to the life that happens. Meaning this, your identity leads in everything that you do. So you either live from a place of understanding what your identity is, or you let your experiences tell you what your identity is. The second version is what most of us are living most of the time and most of our life. But it comes down to a point of revelation, which was lesson number 1. Life mastery or life management, it's actually a choice. And so we unpacked life mastery, but it really starts with that decision. Do you want to live a life by design or life by default? Everybody you know, apart from a freedom journey, is living a life by default. Thinking I'm supposed to compensate for the things that are happening, or have these tools in place so that when life comes against me, I have something to come against it with. When what you're really supposed to do is walk into the life understanding that you're the answer to the situations you're walking into, and in that place seeing the results that God has for you. Starting from identity so that you can live the life that you're created for. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So then we started unpacking your 3 tools. Mastering your thoughts, your words, and your actions. But previous to that, we unpacked your identity. Identity, character, and capacity. Identity is where we wrote that I am statement. Hope you're reading it. Hope you're listening to it. Hope you're speaking it out every single day, because you're not going to become the person that you're created to be unless you continue to remind yourself of it. Why? Because what you know from our lessons in your life is, my life wants to tell me who I am all the time. Whether it's my job or my relationships or my finances or the person in front of me, or whatever the thing is that's going on in your life, it continues to want to tell you who you are. The problem is it's lying to you. We know that from our freedom classes. So everything starts with this I am statement. Who did God create me to be? The more I remind myself of it, the more I see it lived out in my life. The more I speak the truth, the more I destroy the lies. Make sense? So we had that I am statement because that is the foundation of everything you do in life mastery. Everything comes back to identity, because the tattoo we all have, identity is everything. Identity is everything. And we look through the Bible, but we also look through our own lives and see that who God said people were is the first thing he gave them. And the second thing was the mandate on their life, the thing, their assignment, their thing that they were created to do. It all starts with, who am I? You answer that question, and everything else is easy. You don't answer that question, and everything else is hard. I am statement. But then we started to unpack it further in the next lesson, which was character, which the phrase we used from there is, your character is your calling. Why do we need to know that? Because most of us believe that our calling is our character, meaning this, who I am is what I do. And so we need the finances, we need the accolades, we need the job, we need the title to prove that we are somebody. What God says, and we unpacked, was this: you are somebody before you do anything. And so once you realize that your character is your calling, you're not worried that you need to be equipped and set up for the life you're walking into. I actually was talking to somebody at my work today that I'm mentoring, and what I told them was, in terms that you can use at work, was the same thing that I tell you and the same thing I live out myself, which is this: you are already equipped for the life you're walking into. God never calls you into an assignment and then equips you for it afterwards. He equips you for it ahead of time and then invites you to unleash it into the world. So your character is your calling. It's not what I do, it's who I am. And as soon as I can make that transition, the sooner I can stop trying to let my life tell me what I'm doing. And we don't, say that we do it, but we do it all the time, right? So if you lose a job, all of a sudden you start to worry about you. You have a relationship that's having some struggles, all of a sudden you wonder what's wrong with you and if it's going to work out, right? The results of the things that are happening to us can either shake us or they can make us. And so your character is your calling. It's starting with, who am I, the person on the inside, not the things I do on the outside, which means this: every time I succeed or every time I fail, or use that word failure, it doesn't change who I am. So no matter what experience I walk through, it doesn't identify me. It doesn't define me, people say. And therefore, it doesn't stop me from the life God's called me to. Because Satan wants to come in and wants to tell you that every time you do something wrong, it's the proof that you're not the person you think you are. Bless you. but he's wrong. And you start to understand that when you understand character, but then we walk into capacity, which means this: it's walking out of this comfort zone of managing my life to this place of what's the greatest, best, most amazing that God has for my life. It's looking at every aspect of your area, and we'll unpack them today, but it's looking at all these areas and saying, okay, what is the God level life that I'm meant to have in these areas? So that I'm not living less than what I was created for just because it's easy or it's comfortable or I can manage it, but saying, God, what's the most that you have for me? Because that's what I want to live. Right? That scripture that says living life to the fullest. Well, what does that actually look like lived out? So it's saying, what's the maximum capacity that God's given me on the inside that I can live out of my life in every area of my life? Versus how can I be good at one thing and have that make up for the fact that every other area doesn't really measure up? You know people all the time. I'm not throwing stones at them, but it's very obvious when somebody has a career versus they have a life mastery life, because there's this one area that's amazing, but then this other that's a disaster. They have an amazing career, or they're an athlete, or they're an actor, or they're somebody who's a politician, and they're doing amazing in this area, right? Everybody wants to live up to them there. But then you look at another area of their life and it's a disaster. You're amazing in your career, but your marriage, you're on your fifth one. Something's wrong, right? Or you have this amazing advice. You know those people, you know everything about how to tell people how to do everything, but you don't do it in your own life. Your finances are a disaster, right? It's saying, okay, well, if God's called me to live out my life in this way, right? Dominion, that word life mastery came from Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image and likeness. What does that look like lived out? And let him have dominion over all creation, birds of the air, fish of the sea, so on and so forth. That word dominion was also meaning master. So you're really just living out the mandate God has on all this. You're living a life of dominion, life mastery. So we had those three: identity, character, and capacity. With that foundation, that huge pillar of understanding identity, then you walk into the transformational strategies. Because you're being transformed into somebody. And so those three strategies were mastering your thoughts, your words, and your actions. What you think you'll say, what you say you'll do, what you'll do, you'll become. Nothing ever happens in anybody's life that doesn't first start with a thought. So what about our thoughts? Are they in alignment with who God says we are and the life He's created us for? Or are they telling us where we're failing, or where we're not valuable, or where we're not measuring up? And come to find out, right, Scripture, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. We use the Scripture as instruction, not philosophy. The instruction from that is, okay, so if I want to see more of the person I was created to be, then my thoughts should probably be aligned with who that person is. So then what are our thoughts? Right? Meditation, affirmation, and activation. On the meditation part, which means thinking about it over and over again, what do I think about when my life is going badly? When I got a flat tire, or I've had its bill come up that I didn't know about, or I'm having, again, this disagreement with somebody I care about. What's the thoughts that come up about who I am? Because it's never about the situation. It's always about me and what the situation means about me. Right? So what are those thoughts? And if you're going to change those thoughts, you actually have to be active in doing it. It's not a magic formula that I can just say that scripture over and over again and all of a sudden my thoughts change. It's actually putting time into understanding, okay, well, what do I want to say about myself, and how do I continue to remind myself of that until I live it? And then it comes to words. Mastering your words is this. It's actually the power of the tongue, right? Life and death, we said, are in the power of the tongue. And he who loves it will eat his fruit. Instruction that comes from that is, what are the words you're saying? Are they in alignment with who God says you are and what God says about the situation? Are they limiting and stopping you from actually finding answers to the situation and the challenge you're walking into? So it's practicing words you actually want to live for two reasons. One is that the things you say out of your mouth will pretty quickly tell somebody what you think about yourself. Talk to somebody long enough and you'll find out how they feel about themselves, because it'll come out. But the second is this: God created our brain as an instruction receiver, and what we receive instructions from is the words we say out. So when I say things like, oh, my life is horrible, or another bad day, or oh, it's Monday, or any of these little phrases that we think don't mean anything, we're actually programming ourselves to play them out. And so when I say things like, I'm always making dumb decisions, or whatever the things are that we say out loud or to ourselves, we give our brain instructions to live them out. So mastering our words, mastering our thoughts, and then mastering our actions. Meditation, affirmation, activation. That one last thing on that word affirmation. Affirmation just isn't positive phrases. It's saying things that are in alignment with what you truly believe. And so how do I change what I truly believe? Well, I changed my thoughts in my head and the words that I speak. And then it comes down to actions. Freedom looks like something lived out. Life mastery looks like something lived out. So that person that you way back in the day created an I am statement about, what does that man or woman look like lived out? Are your actions in alignment with who that person is? Not what you've been in the past, right? Not those self-sabotaging actions that you do, right? I started a diet and then I quit. I started exercising and then I stopped. Well, I really want to be, managing my finances, but then I just went crazy overspending on foolish things this weekend, right? What are your actions and do they align with who you're created to be? Mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. What does that person look like lived out? It's posture, it's stature, it's structure, but it's movement as well, which means this. You can actually change your emotional state by changing your physical state. We talked about it last week, right? What does somebody look like who's not confident? Somebody who's shy, somebody who's introverted. They have a body structure, right? Their shoulders are down, their eyes are down, they don't look you in the eye, they don't raise their hand. You know what those things are, but we never realize that we can change those in ourselves. So what does a man of action look like? What does a woman of confidence look like? And are you showing that person as you walk through your day? Most personal development programs start and end with actions. They call it a state change, which means this: if I want to be somebody of excitement, well, I just need to show that body language and have those actions and all those things. The problem with starting with actions is you'll always have to stay with them. Meaning this: what you use to get there, you'll have to maintain to stay there. Right. And that doesn't look like freedom. God's not asking us to pretend to be somebody until we feel like somebody. God's actually inviting us to understand who we're created to be, because that's absolutely the easiest thing to live out. So the transformational strategy was this: mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. How do you transform your life and live a life of mastery? You do it through your thoughts, your words, your actions. How do you change those habits and those places where you just feel like you continue to fall back into the same old things? You change your thoughts, your words, your actions. I was at work today having a conversation with somebody I've been invited to mentor. What did I talk to that person about? I talked about their thoughts, their words, their actions. It's not a Christian philosophy, it's a God one. But it works even if you don't know Jesus, because that's who he created us to be. So what are your thoughts? What are your words? What are your actions? What are you feeding yourself every day? If you're feeding yourself on social media and you're feeding your thoughts on the things that you are failing at, you'll continue to see that in your life. What you feed, you'll see more of. So what are you feeding yourself with your thoughts, your words, your actions? When something goes wrong or something is a challenge, do you automatically start talking and thinking and working towards solutions, or do you want to spend some time in the mess and the muck? We all are there. The faster you get to the solution, the faster you'll have one. It's a lifestyle to live, not a habit to maintain. So when do I need to stop doing that? Well, I'm still doing it. The difference is now the person that I continue to tell myself I am, I continue to see myself being in the moments that I need that person to be that person in my life. Mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. And so we have understanding life mastery, life management. I'm going to live my life by design, because if God designed me to live the life I'm created for, I want that. I understand my identity, right? Identity and character and capacity. So if I can continue to remind myself of who he created me to be, I can continue to see that person lived out. If I can continue to feed myself on my thoughts and my words and my actions, I can actually see the life that he created for me, not the life that I intended. So that leads us to this week, and this week is all about the 5 areas of life mastery. I believe this. And I believe it's proven out in scripture that there are 5 areas that if you master each of these areas, you'll have the most amazing life you could have ever imagined. And those 5 areas of life mastery are spiritually, relationally, vocationally, physically, financially. You don't have to worry about them, they're all written down. So what does a life look like that God created us for? Well, it starts off with the spiritual life, right? Of course, everything starts and ends with God. So the spiritual life master is a God and me relationship. It's a relationship with my Creator. So the question is, well, what does that look like? If I was to write a description of what relationship I want to have with God, the most amazing, the ultimate, the perfect, right? That one that I've been striving for, the one I've been desiring for, the one that I think is, if I had this relationship with God, that would be perfect. I would love that relationship. That's the one that I'm talking about. What does that life look like lived out? And I'll give you a quick cheat code on this. It's the one He's designed you for. There's no desire, there's no wish, there's no hunger you have on the inside of you for relationship and spiritual walk that God doesn't have for you to have. That He didn't design for you to already have, that He's not been longing for you to have with Him. So the spiritual area, and then the relational area, it's people and me. Whether you're married or have a girlfriend, boyfriend, or you just have relationships with other people, it's the relationships with those people that I love. So if you're married, what does the perfect marriage in your mind look like lived out? The most healthy, the most vibrant, the most exciting, the most intimate, the most vulnerable, the most healthy, the safest relationship of all that you could ever have. I'm pretty sure it's not the one you grew up with, which is fine. And I was at a work conversation today, and that person shared with me part of the health of the way they grew up or the lack thereof. Interesting, even in work it affects you. So what does that look like lived out? And if you're not married or don't have a boyfriend, girlfriend, but what are the relationships around you? Because healthy relationships don't just happen between a husband and wife. They happen with parents and kids. They happen with friends and coworkers. They happen with people that you care about. Mostly, they'll happen with the people that you love, because that's the place of most impact. What does that relationship look like lived out? Here's a question. What do you want to look like in that relationship? What's the person that God created you to be in those relationships? A person of confidence and compassion, a person of depth and love, a person of safety and compassion who desires the best for those people that are around him. What does that look like lived out? Third area of life mastery is vocation. I use vocation just because I love things that rhyme or work together, but it could actually be anything. When I say vocation, what I mean is calling, and when I say calling, what I mean is the impact that you're supposed to have in the world. It could be a job. It could be a ministry. It could be a business. It could be an activity like an artist or somebody like that. What's the you thing that the world is going to be different because you lived? Michelangelo, the guy I talked about, and I love using as an example for identity, his was art, and more specifically sculpture. He did other things. Sistine Chapel. Mm-hmm. Maybe your family saw the Sistine Chapel this week. Mm-hmm. What's the you thing? It's the me and me, what I was created for, the impact I'm supposed to have in the world. It may be your job, and that's fine, or it may be your ministry, or it may be your business. It's not the same for every person. Everybody's not going to be LeBron or Elon Musk, but what you are going to be is the person that is going to have an impact in the world, because God's no respecter of persons. He's never created anybody to be ordinary. He's never created anybody to be forgotten. It doesn't mean all of us will be on TV or have an amazing YouTube account. It means that every one of us will be able to have an investment in the hearts of those that we were supposed to, so that they will know us long after we're gone. Not because we want to be famous, but because there's a God part inside of us that makes a difference in the world. What does that look like? Who's that person? What's that thing? And then physically, the physical area, it's health in me. optimally fit for your life purposes. And for me, health has kind of changed over time. Before it was ego driven, you know, I want to look good so people can see that I look good. Nowadays, in my age group, it's the fact that I want to be as healthy as possible, as long as possible for the rest of the life that I have. Caleb in the Bible is one of my favorite people because he's kind of a guy like me. He's old. He received a promise in his 40s that he lived out in his 80s. He was able to live it out in his 80s because he said he was as healthy in that day as he was the day the promise was given. That's the kind of life God has for us, not one where you're stumbling into death and your best days are behind you, but that every stage and age of your life you have the physical and the mental and the intellectual health to live out a vibrant life until the end of your life. God never created anybody to fade away. And so what does the physical health look like in your life? What does it look like for your physical capabilities? What does it look like to work out or to do things that add to your health? What does it look like to eat well and give yourself the fuel to do that? What does it look like mentally? Does your brain check out at the end of your day? Or are there things that you're using to continue to make yourself and continue to give yourself the ability to be sharp in all things? Come to find out, one of the best ways that you can minimize the effects of Alzheimer's and to postpone it is to actually be doing things that engage your intellect, like puzzles, like word games and things like that. You can actually continue to grow your brain and to make it healthy by the things that you do. That's all part of it. It's not everybody being a triathlete, it's everybody living the life that they're called to for every day and every age until the end. I told my wife that we're going to pass away in our 90s together in each other's arms. And I plan to be healthy until my very last day so that people are surprised that I'm gone. Not glad that it ended. Because I believe that's the call that God has on our life. So what do I need to engage in now to be wise and smart and diligent in what I'm doing so that I can live that out for the rest of my days? And the last is financially. And what I call this is philanthropy in you, which is a different word. It's not philanthropy, it's not abundance, but philanthropy. You can look it up, but I can spell it later if you'd like. See, it's not just provision and it's not just abundance. It's having more than enough, not just for your needs and the needs for those you care about, but for the needs that are on your heart that God has. Meaning this, God didn't give us our money for ourselves, but He gave us our money so that they can be invested in the things that matter to us and matter to Him. So it's not a paycheck to paycheck kind of existence, although there may be a place for that at a time for that, but there's an understanding of my finances aren't just for me to survive on, it's because He wants me to invest in the things of the kingdom. Right? That's why we tithe at church or give offerings at church, because we know that there's things that matter beyond us. There's a power in investment when I have not just enough for me, but I have enough to give to those things that matter. Because for each of us, there's things that matter in our life. So, I'm not saying we all have to be millionaires, but there is a place of abundance in every person's life that God desires for us to have. Well, what does that look like for you? What does that look like as far as a dollar? What does that look like as far as an investment? What does God mean for you to do in the financial area of your life? Not everybody will be a millionaire, but some people will. And believe it or not, come to find out, there are actually millionaires who are Christians.
Wow.
The other thing you need to be aware of, every millionaire is not a Christian and every Christian is not a millionaire. So we fall on both sides where we think that wealth is of the devil, and to be really holy, you need to be broke. That's a lie. But there's another lie that says that if you are holy enough, you'll be a millionaire. You'll be super wealthy. There will be people who are, but we're not chasing money. We're chasing the investment God has for us in the world. So what does that look like? Your life lived out, life mastery, spiritually, relationally, vocationally, physically, financially. if you were to write down in each of these categories, what is the perfect life I believe I'm called to live? What is the highest level of living that God has for me that I could write down? What would it look like? Glad you asked. Yes, that'll be your assignment for the week. So, right off the top of your head, here's what I want you to do. What's the one category that you feel like is calling in your name to be tackled this I'll say season, not this week? Just put a star by it. The one area that you, not your spouse, feel like you need to invest some time in increasing your vision on what God desires for you to have in that area. So put a star by the category. And here's the next thing you're going to do. 3 descriptive words in that category. Write down 3 descriptive words that are part of the vision God has for you in that area. You have 30 seconds starting now. Ten seconds. Okay, you're done. Great job. So 2 things. First thing is this. It's easier than you think to create a vision in whatever area it is, spiritually, relationally, vocationally, physically, or financially. The easiest way to do it is to get you out of the way. If you're like me or most people, okay, well, write a vision for that area. The first thing you want to start doing is debating in your head whether it's God or you. Instead of just taking the assignment as it is, throwing up on the page everything that you said or everything you're thinking of, and then refining it from there. Whatever highest, greatest, most outlandishly crazy vision you have for that area of your life, or all of those areas of your life, you need to know something. It's not as crazy, outlandish, or extravagant as God's. So however high you can reach, however high you can think, however great you can imagine it to be, it's going to be bigger. Because that's who your God is. But for many of us, most of the time, there's this fear of being arrogant. Oh, it couldn't be that good, that great, that amazing. Well, here's the question for you. What if it is? And the only thing holding you back from having it is, first and foremost, your belief that you can. Freedom journey, right? There's lots of cliches and phrases about, shooting for the moon and reaching for the stars and all that kind of stuff, and I really don't like any of them, but the truth of the matter is I would rather fail upwards into the fullness of what God has than limit Him to what I'm comfortable with. So your assignment for this week, I'm going to give you a quick bonus teaching, but I'm going to give you the assignment of flesh out that one area of your life. You don't have to do all 5, but look at one of them and say, God, what is the life mastery level, this highest, greatest, deepest, most amazing level of life that you have created me for in this area? And write it out and read it out so you can live it out. You can't hit a target that you don't see. And you can't see a target you don't focus on. So write it down. Or you can be like the 97% of people who have dreams that never come true because they won't write down the vision that they have for it. And by the way, how does it work out? Because in order to create the vision and read it out and continue to meditate on it, you have to engage your thoughts, your words, and your actions. All of life mastery transformation happens with your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Super simple. So simple most people don't do it. Your thoughts, your words, your actions. Think about what it is. Write it down, say it out. Continue to do it until you see it lived out. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, quick bonus teaching. Write the word down, gratitude. I'm going to give you 5 minutes on this, but I wanted to give it to you before we're done here. The superpower of life mastery is gratitude. You won't have any notes, so whatever you write down is what you'll have for this. When's the last time that you were grateful waking up? Not grateful because you did wake up, but grateful waking up. Meaning this, when is the first time that you started your day off being grateful for the life you're living? What would happen if you created a habit of doing it? Because here's the challenge. For most of our life, what we do, myself included, is I'll evaluate my life, and if it's measuring up to what I want or exceeds that, then I'm going to be grateful. Right? It's a scale of if more good than bad happened, or I can't remember anything that bad happened. Oh well, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna be joyous. But what if you change that? Psalm 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord my God. And then Philippians 4:8. It's the one we've talked about. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue, if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So what's good and true and right and just and pure and lovely in your life? It's an instruction, it's not a philosophy. It's not a cute phrase that we use to be holy, it's an instruction we use to live out. That phrase is telling you simply one thing. What are you grateful for in your life? We look at those things and we look at all of the Word of God and we look at it outside of ourselves. Okay, well, I want to see God's creation and what's good and pure and right and true and lovely. Absolutely. The problem is we never look inside and see what's pure and right and true and good and lovely about us. So when you start your life and your day off with gratitude, the superpower of life mastery, you automatically change your focus. I've talked about it in this class, mentioned it momentarily. Somebody I know, every time we have a conversation, I don't have one often with them because every time they have a conversation about something, there's always this phrase that comes up. Yeah, but you know what the problem with that is? I do know what the problem is. The problem is I'm having a conversation with that person. Because you'll rise and fall to the level of the people you are in relationship with. And I don't have a problem with the person. The problem that they have is that everything has a problem associated with it. But does it really? So I stumped them one time. I said, well, that's great, but what's right with the situation? And lo and behold, they started to find out things that were right about it. You change your focus to the things you're grateful for, you'll find more things to be grateful for in your life. Everybody has a problem. Everybody has a challenge. Everybody has an issue. There's no person living that has a perfect life, which means that for every one of us, we can always find something that isn't right. But the more you focus on it, the less you live out the life that you were created for. Because whatever is pure, true, right, lovely, and just, meditate on those things. Mm-hmm. Thoughts, words, and actions. The more I continue to remind myself of the great things I have, the more I speak them out, the more I live them out. Second thing it does is empowers you to find solutions, not be problem-oriented. The faster you can get to the solution, the shorter the time you walk into the problem. It's not a cliche, it's a truth. The more time you spend complaining, the less time you spend finding answers. And it's fine to be there. You just won't get past there until you make that transition. I would prefer to get through that journey quickly. But it's our choice. Third is this, it engages the higher level functions of your brain. We talked about it before really quickly. It's the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic system is in charge of fight, flight, and freeze. It's the super basic human response to something that happens. Right? Fight, flight, or freeze. A loud sound goes off, a dog is barking, somebody suddenly stops their car in front of me, right? It's those immediate reactions. The problem is, it's a reaction for survival, not for thriving. So how do I engage the higher level functions of the parasympathetic nervous system, the higher level functions for solutions and answers and ideas? By focusing towards things that are empowering and bring life. And the fourth is it just makes your life better. 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18 says this, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. So, superpower of life mastery is gratitude. How do you use it in a way that is going to change your life forever? Start your day with it. Before you get out of bed and brush your teeth and say hello to anyone, find 3 things that you're grateful for. Speak them out over yourself and then go on with your day. This person I was talking to, the reason they asked for me to mentor them was because I came into a job that was, my department was fairly dysfunctional. Out of the 5 people that I oversee, 3 of them were on their last warning before they were going to be fired. And obviously that was a toxic environment. And so there came a time where we were talking about whatever, and how many of you know that in a challenging environment when people aren't getting along, there's sometimes a little bit of finger pointing. Mm-hmm. And so every time there would be an issue or a challenge or something coming up, somebody would always be ready to tell me why it was somebody's fault. And so we had this phrase, and I told this person today, one of the ways I changed the culture of the department was when they came up to me and they kept wanting to tell me who did what wrong, I made them aware that I don't care what the challenge is, I want to find out what the solution is. I'm not worried about who did something wrong. I'm not looking for somebody to punish. I'm looking for an answer on how to fix it. And lo and behold, as we continue to hear that and live that out as a department, the department got better and everybody stopped blaming everybody and started finding solutions. The sooner you look towards solving your issues and finding out what's right in your life, the more you'll see it in your life. Gratitude is the superpower. And by the way, gratitude before anything happens. First thing in the morning, you create a mindset that says, there's good that's happening in my life. And lo and behold, you're going to have some amazing days because you've set your mind to find amazing things in your day. There you go, bonus teaching. Thoughts, words, and actions. All of transformation comes from your thoughts, your words, and your actions. I think about what's right in my life. I speak it out over my life. I see it in my life.